Hello, guys. Today we are in beautiful New Mexico. I don't know if you can see the mountains in the background. Uh, Today we'll be reviewing my Subaru WRX 2022. So I bought this car brand new in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and I have owned it since, like I said, it's a 2022. I bought it in December of 2022. It is a magnetite gray metallic. So, like I said before, the car is a 2022 model year. It is a premium trim, so it does come with those bigger wheels. It comes with the bigger infotainment system, touchscreen 11-inch. I think it's 11.6 if I remember correctly. And it does come with the heated seats. So that is a huge, huge plus in the wintertime here in northern New Mexico where, it can get pretty cold. Not as cold as some other places, but, it's still a good thing to have. So I didn't think I would want to have a car with all the extra technology, but you know what? I fell in love with all the creature comforts of the car. And, it is a really, really good daily. You can option out the premium trim to have the sunroof as well as the upgraded Harman Kardon system. But as you can see, this one did not come with it, either the sunroof or the Harman Kardon, which honestly is not a big deal breaker for me. I still like the sound of the speakers in this car, even though it's not the upgraded system. So let's get into the engine. So here we got the engine, guys. It is a 2.4 liter turbocharged boxer engine. It is making 271 horsepower and 258 pound-feet of torque, which I think is more than enough for a good little sporty car that doesn't weigh, more than 4,000 pounds. But yeah, that's basically it. I haven't done anything to this car mechanically. Um, it just, the only things I've done are pretty much aesthetic. I put in some lowering springs, which I'll probably be reviewing later. I put in those Subaru factory roof bars, as well as the STI wing. This is the Noble V4, if I remember correctly. It does look pretty good. But yeah, that's basically it for the outside of the car. Let's get into the inside. All right, guys. So now I want to talk a little bit about the pros and cons of this car. So I'm going to start with the pros because I think it's a really good car. So where do I even start? So the car is just, fun to drive. I did opt for the 6-speed manual transmission down here, and it's just what I wanted out of a car when I was looking for one. Um, so another thing, it is pretty fuel efficient. So it has an EPA estimate of 19 miles per gallon city and 26 highway, I believe. And I have a really long commute to work. Well, not really long, it's an hour long commute and it's mostly highway. So I do drive, 75 miles per hour, which is the speed limit. And I do get about 26.5 to 27.5 miles per gallon average. So that is including the stop and goes, the lights and everything. But that is because I do have mostly highway driving on my commute home from work. Um, so I think that is a huge pro for this car. I think it's a perfect daily driver, and it might even be too perfect of a daily driver car. Let me explain. It is a four-door sedan. You have enough space back there for uh, kids. If you have kids, you could put a car seat on each side, have your two kids, have another passenger up here on the side, and you're not going to be suffering in terms of space. It's, really spacious. Back there, I was able to fit four tires when I was replacing the tires with this car, which is a point I'll get to in the end. But it has a decent amount of space in the interior, a decent amount of space in the trunk, and it is a turbocharged 4-cylinder engine with a manual transmission. So it is incredibly fun to drive. It is economical. You have space for other people. So what is there to complain about? It's not going to be the fastest car in the world, so don't buy a WRX thinking that you're going to be the fastest guy out there. But for me and for what I need, it is a perfect daily driver. It looks absolutely phenomenal on the exterior, as you already saw. So you know it's perfect. So now, time for the cons. So it is the cons are tiny issues that have gotten a little bit annoying over time, but it's nothing terrible. So let's get to it. Okay, now a little bit of a change of scenery to talk about the cons. So I have had a few issues with the car. So I think the very first issue that I had was in the wintertime. For whatever reason, I do not know. It might have been because it was on a decline, or I don't know the reasons for it, but it would crank, but it would not start the very first time. It would do it until the second time. So that was like, one of the tiny issues that I had with it at first. And that was back in 2023, I think, in the beginning when it was winter time. So, yeah, that was the very first issue that I had with the car. Okay, so another one of the big issues that I had with the car was the tires, because Subaru sells this car with Dunlop summer tires. And come on, it's a car that has rally racing pedigree. It has, the legendary Subaru all-wheel drive system, and they sell it with summer tires. And I know they probably have their reasons for it and whatnot, but here in northern New Mexico, at least, it does get a little bit of snow. So, you need other tires. You need better tires to be able to drive this car year round. Because, I have read a lot on Reddit specifically about people driving their WRX with their stock summer tires, and they end up wrecking it. And, people always make fun of them. They're like, oh, well, you should have changed your tires. But I do not know why Subaru just doesn't sell the car with all seasons, which is what are on this car. And I'm not driving this car too much when there's heavy snow, because I still have all seasons that are not Three Peak Mountain rated. So I drive my truck when it's extremely heavy snow. But that's just a little issue that I had with Subaru when I first bought the car, and a little complaint, because you buy a brand new car, and then you have to go out and spend over $1,000 on brand new tires. So that is a issue. All right, so coming back to the interior of the car, we're going to start with the other con about this car, and that is the infotainment system. So this was a huge issue about 2-3 years ago when the cars were barely coming out, which actually I still have the first software that came with the car, so that's probably why I had more issues with it. But I think since there has been updates and it changes like the bottom here, but the infotainment is one of the big issues with the car. So first of all, it is a little bit laggy. It is a little bit clunky. At least mine is. Like I said, I don't know how the updated version is. I went one time to the Subaru dealership and I asked them for the update, and they're like, "Oh no, we don't do that here." I was like, "What?" It's whatever, dude. So I know there's a way to be able to get the software into a USB. You plug it into one of the ports down here, and you're able to update your car on your own. However, I am a lazy person that has not done that. So, yeah, it is still the same old laggy uh, software that was on there from the factory. Now, an issue that I kept having with it was with the Apple CarPlay. It only has wired CarPlay. So you have to, connect your phone to it. And I was getting extreme issues with the connectivity of it. So it would disconnect my phone pretty often. Like, I think in my hour-long commute, it would probably disconnect it maybe 2 or 3 times, and it was really, really annoying to deal with because I'm just trying to enjoy my music on my commute to work. Um, so yeah, that was an issue. Now, another thing was that it blacked out on me a couple times, and it scared me the very, very first time. So what do I mean by that? It's, right here, I'm turning off the screen. Okay. So it would go like that randomly. It would stay as a black screen, but you would hear the audio playing. Like, everything still worked. If you use the controls down here in the steering wheel, it would still work. Volume would still work up and down, everything. However, the screen was black, and I like freaked out. I was like, oh no, the infotainment messed up. I'm still under warranty, but it's still, you get scared of it. I looked it up once again, trusty old Reddit, and I read that people had that same issue where it would just black out. It wouldn't do anything. You would press the buttons, and here it came on, mute off, whatever. If I hold it, it comes back on. However, well, however, those other times it would not. So how do you fix this issue? Well, apparently the issue is just resetting it. So you would have to turn off the car. However, turning it off and on would not fix it. You would have to turn off the car, go to your key fob, lock it, and then unlock it, and then turn the car on again. And that somehow resets it to where you get the screen back. And I just thought it was really random, and it kind of scared me the first time. But it's only happened to me 2 times in the a little bit over 2 years of ownership that I've had with this car, so it's not scary anymore. However, I don't know if the software update fixes that. Like I said, I still have the old one. But yeah, those are issues that I had with the infotainment. Another issue that I have still with this car is the exhaust. So it is on right now, and I can barely hear it. It sounds like an absolute lawnmower once it's warmed up. However, the issue is not when it's warmed up, because that can be fixed by an aftermarket exhaust. The thing that happens is these Subarus have an extremely loud and drony cold start for whatever reason. So they cold start extremely loud, sit there for about 2 to 5 minutes, depending how warm it is outside. Once the cats are warm enough, the car goes back down to low idle, which is where it is now, and which is why you can barely hear it. Um, but yeah, it's kind of dumb because it's loud in the morning when I'm leaving at 5 a.m. for work, and I feel like that is not very good for neighbors. But that can be easily fixed. So I know a lot of people that are putting aftermarket exhaust systems and complaining about the drone and whatnot. Apparently, the solution is to get an exhaust that has a resonator in it. So catback with a resonator is the perfect exhaust for this, because the resonator helps quiet down a little bit of the drone, and the catback makes it so that it's a little louder under acceleration when you want it to be loud. So that is actually one of the upcoming modifications that I want to do to it, is get a catback exhaust system that has a resonator, because I don't want my neighbors to hate me, and probably wheels too in the future. But enough of that. The exhaust was another con that I had. So now we're back in the interior. So this is basically concluding the cons that I had with the car. Now, you can compare the WRX to, I believe, only two other cars, and that is the Toyota Corolla GR and the Volkswagen Golf R. That is because they are both manual, all-wheel drive cars, even though they're hot hatches. And they're very close in performance. I believe the Corolla makes about 300 horsepower. uh Golf R, I'm not too sure about. I'm assuming it's about the same. However, I believe the Subaru WRX is on a league of its own. And even though you have those two other competitors, you also have to take into consideration the cost of it. So the WRX is about $10,000 to $15,000 cheaper than the Golf R or the Corolla GR, even without your stupid dealer markups or whatever. Even without the markups of the dealer, those are still way more expensive cars by a margin of about 25%. So that is a huge thing to take into consideration. And that's why I believe the WRX is just has no competition at its price point. So the WRX, the Corolla, uh and the Golf R are, I'm pretty sure, all phenomenal cars. I have not gotten the chance to drive a Golf R or a Corolla GR, but I believe, you know I might be biased, but I would not pay $40,000 to $50,000 for a car that has similar performance to the WRX that I paid $31,000 for, I believe, back when I bought it. So, in conclusion, this car, the 2022 Subaru WRX Premium, for me, is the best bang for the buck that you can get for a daily driver. So, it is sporty, it is comfortable, it is spacious, uh, and basically all the issues that I had with this car are easily fixable. So, the infotainment, I could probably just get a software update. The exhaust, I can get an exhaust. Basically every issue that I've had with it can be easily fixed with an aftermarket part. And that brings me to, another point before I leave, is that the Subaru WRX has an insane aftermarket support. So a lot of companies are making aftermarket parts for this, exterior, interior parts, engine parts, and whatnot. I believe the Golf R and the Corolla GR are not going to get the same treatment because there's a very limited number of them, or not very limited, just less than WRX, I believe. But that is basically all I have for today. Please let me know your thoughts and comments down below on, the Subaru WRX, or any comparison that you might want to make to it. And also, don't forget to like and subscribe if you would like me to keep uploading these kinds of videos, either product reviews or car reviews or whatnot. It would really help me out on my channel. I am barely starting off. However, I'm going to give it my best to give people content that they want. So thank you for watching, and see you next time.